Hey everybody, it's Master Galengeist here, bringing you my The Evil Within video game series perspective. Ta-da! So, I was talking about this with Reverb Jill Sandwiches and decided I'd like to do my thoughts on this video game series, and so I replayed both of them fairly recently. And I'm glad that I did, because if I didn't do that, I would miss out kind of on the kind of changes that I've had since I initially played them. The Evil Within at around 2015. I didn't finish like all the stuff that was in it, and I didn't do it on complete hard mode. And then this one around 2017 ish, 2018 when it came out. So, the thing is, like, with the first one, I wasn't really doing my channel. I did understand kind of like doing certain critiques, but now since I've been doing this channel for a while, it has helped me look at certain video game series and also certain medium in a different kind of way, and I'm almost like, it's really kind of changed like my views on these, especially this first one. And I'm questioning like how the fuck we even got the video game series to begin with, and how it fucking got a sequel also. And the thing is, at around that time, around 2014, you're like, okay, we're in the new console cycle. Where's our kind of like survival horror? Not really that much AAA around wise, other than pretty much like your Resident Evils and other kind of things. You're like, okay, no kind of big AAA kind of new kind of franchise with this. Because I'm into Resident Evil, I'm into Dead Space, want to see what's kind of going on with this. And they put this out, and Shinji Mikami's part of it. It's like, alright, let's kind of see how this goes. And I understand that tuning a survival horror game is a hard thing to do. If you make it too difficult, and a fairy fart can pretty much kill you and like destroy your progress, you're like, this isn't fun. You know what I mean? And that goes into like hard mode tuning, because I've seen stuff with like the hard modes on this. I'm like, yeah, I try and find a kind of like balance now, because I don't mind a challenge, but when you're trying to Dark Souls fuck me on something and it's just not fun and just made to be bullshit, so that somebody can brag that they like were able to do something that was essentially lucky, or like they'll say that it's skill based, but most likely if you try and repeat what they did during that thing for their skill, it's more like sometimes attributable to luck. Not saying that there aren't some very skilled people out there that beat super hard kind of things, but you're like, yeah, that's some kind of weird ass bullshit there. So I went more on the normal, because that gives you the baseline experience to kind of see what's kind of going on, and also gives me the most kind of enjoyment where I'm like having enough of a challenge while also kind of going through the story. And the thing is, this was not one of those kind of other kind of like Outlast ones where it's like, hey, I'm just filming this and like I'm doing nothing. So those are pretty much movies to me, and I'd rather just watch a movie. I want to play. So, The Evil Within. It's even weird on how to begin with this motherfucker, because I did not remember the story being this fucking I would say it's shit if there was enough there to call it shit. Like, it's, oh god, I did not remember it being so fucking nothing. Like, we get characters, we get things happening, but the connection and cohesion with them are just fucked and borked, and you're like, what? And I understand that there's DLC that tries to rectify this. However, if I need to get DLC to get the ending and pay for it, fuck that noise. Alright? Like, if you're like, I don't understand what has happened here, it's like, alright, let's try and make some shit to fill in to like make this make more sense. You're still fucked up. You know, that's like, if I'm paying full price for a video game and I have to then pay you more to get an ending, fuck that noise all the way home. So, this starts out like, it's weird. I can't even like this starts out with, like, we're introduced to Seb, Joseph, and Kidman, and random red shirt dude who we're going to have to deal with soon. They are called to Beacon Mental Hospital because shit's going down. And the thing is, they're just coming from another case. And they're driving in this car, we hear this weird kind of noise, and they kind of go, and then they go in and we see bodies everywhere. We're like, what the fuck? Seb then gets knocked out, and it's like, what the fuck's going on here? And that's it. Everything kind of follows some kind of weird action. I say action / horror set piece, where we get Chainsaw Dude that's running and chasing us, and we can't fight back. And then we get introduced to these zombie things that are kind of pissed off, like, Las Plagas people, but we never understand why they are, except they're, like, infected or tainted by this dude, Ruvik, who, is... oh my god. It's even weird trying to explain it, because you go through each kind of scenario, and they're so loosely connected, and you find out you're in this kind of matrix thing controlled by Ruvik's brain, who is this, like, aristocratic dude who is, like, experimenting on people because he's like, and he had a fucked up relationship with his sister, but, like, she got killed in a barn fire because his parents, who are rich assholes, bought up all the land, but we got these crazy assholes who are like, fuck them, I'm not hearing anything, and lights a barn with, like, kids on fire. Like, the thing is, it's, like, the bare minimum, like, oh, class warfare. It's like, alright, but you didn't even give it any shit for it. Like, Ruvik is usually in this kind of, like, mansion house that you kind of run through randomly because he's controlling the Matrix brain thingy. Because Seb fucking kills his brain thing towards the end. And you're like, okay, how did they get to the barn? Where's the barn? Why is that stuff there? And it's like, okay. And they just randomly come out. It's like, we're going to show them. It's like, burning the barn's going to show them? Like, there's no true motivations. I can understand being like, there's shitty people on, like, either kind of side of that. The rich assholes buying up everything, and then the people who are like, I'm going to do anything to, like, get my vengeance on them. It's like, no, that ain't cool. We don't even get that. It's just like, burn barn! Don't you hear anything? Nope. It's like, oh, alright. Ruvik got fucked up, and this Jimenez dude has been working with him to do this kind of STEM shit research. It's like, what the fuck? And we learn that evidently they got sucked into this STEM thing, even though it's like, how did they even get in here and to begin with? Did people actually die? What the fuck is actually going on here? And instead of just dealing with all these weird fucking scenarios where he's running through, fighting Chainsaw Dude, and fighting all these kind of things that are kind of drawn on from, like, Silent Hill things. You got Safe Head, which is like Pyramid Head. You got fucking Laura, which is a kind of weird Japanese fucker, which is based on Ruvik's sister, which you, like, can't kill. Well, you can kill if you got your shit upgraded. I'm going to deal with the story stuff first, then kind of get into the gameplay. But it's... And then you suddenly randomly pop in and out with, like, certain other characters. Joseph will pop up and be like, I'm a monster thingy. Now I'm not. Now I am. Now I'm not. I'm now dead because Kidman shot me. Even though he was just shot in some kind of random place. And you're like, alright. And she's trying to get this Leslie dude who you're like, alright, why is he important? Until you get to the end, it's like Ruvik used him to get out. And it's like, alright, that doesn't pop up again because they're like, let's just forget this fucking thing happened. Because it was like, they followed the Michael Bay approach. We want all these horror tropes. We want Seb to look like a noir's detective dude. He's evidently had problems with the Force and was internally investigated by, like, Joseph. He's like, hey, you need to kind of, like, look into him. He's doing some weird shit. And you'd really barely get any of that. Like, even in this, like, main crux of the stories, as you're going through, you're just, like, going through each kind of almost battle zone. Dealing with zombie thingies, dealing with bosses, and you're like, okay, you got things that you have to read to figure out what the fuck's going on, and even then it's not really that much clear. This gets into a giant pet peeve of mine game design-wise. Lore and notes should be value add to give extra context and add things. They should not be the primary way you tell the fucking story. Otherwise, why the fuck am I playing the thing? Like, why the fuck have cutscenes then? Just put it all in the thing and have me read it. That's a book then, wouldn't you say, Master Galen, guys? Yes! Yes, that would be. And then that would probably be a more effective way to kind of tell the thing if you're not going to actively tell the thing. Destiny and Dark Souls do that a lot. Now, granted, I don't mind environmental storytelling. Alright, when you're like, what the fuck's going on with this thing? However, just being obtuse and just being like so non-transparent, you're just like, I still don't know what's going on. It's like, oh, it's open to interpretation. Well, I interpret, nothing fucking happened, and I'm fucking done. Skadoosh. So, you got all that kind of going on, and you're like, you don't really feel that these are characters. You're just going through and doing things to fight things. It's like, all right, that had to a certain extent, but then that goes into the actual gameplay. There we go. That's an actual pretty good segue to get into that kind of thing. The gameplay. We've got shooting, we've got stealth, we've got upgrades for your abilities and your weapons. So it follows very much within the realms of kind of Resident Evil kind of style, save for the stealth. I will again reiterate this. If you think that you want to put something in your game, system-wise, make it work as best as possible. The stealth was fuckity-doo-dah, fuckity-day, and like The Last of Us, and I didn't like it. The stealth in here definitely goes with certain kind of looks, especially in the second one. It's like, there's certain instances where it's like, hey, why don't you stealth kill this motherfucker? And they will immediately rando turn. Not even just rando turn. Like, every time I was trying to kill this certain kind of thing in the second one, it would always turn. So I just went with my crossbow, and I'm like, fuck you, eat this, die. Psst. Moving on. But it sucks because the thing is stealth killing, and the stealth mechanics are an integral part of this, because otherwise you're gonna, like, shit your resources like a motherfucker. Resources in this game? Holy motherfucking shit. The resource management in this is tuned to fuck you, eat dick, die, and rub grass in your asshole. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but the thing is, the RNG aspect of it is like, hey, I found a bullet. Oh, really? This area's got like 300 enemies in it. Granted, they never get to that kind of enemy density. I'm being hyperbolic, but the thing is, you get, okay, you got like, in a zone where you got 30 enemies and you're trying to break open crates and you're only getting one bullet, or certain things that you're not even getting the ammo for the certain kind of weapons that would most effectively help you with that kind of thing. Holy fuckballs, that'll shit, like, I understand the use of RNG in granting certain kind of things, and understanding the tuning for your survival horror. But if you don't have the resources to effectively get out of what are essentially puzzle rooms, you just have increased the pissed offedness level of your player until the point that they like rage quit, and it's like, why am I doing this? Like, I've gotten past the point of being like, if I beat this game, that proves something. I only like I'll get to a point that if like a game stymies me to a certain point that it's just complete fuckery, I'm not gonna finish it. Like, it's almost like, oh god, you're a gamer, you gotta finish your games. It's like, only if I have fun, and only if it doesn't try and fuck me stupidly. And if you keep getting one bullet, or not even health items, or anything like that, or get nothing, how is there resource and inventory management if you have no resources or inventory to manage? Granted, this is somewhat more rectified in the second one, because they're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if people had fun playing this game? Sure. Okay. Because in this, there's some nutty fucking shit. Your stealth, like, characters will see you in the weirdest fucking thing. And sometimes they'll be looking at you, and they don't fucking see you. It's like, okay, I will take this because this isn't my advantage. But it's like, I'm guessing here. Are you seeing me? Are you not seeing me? Then, there's the ability to, like, disarm traps to get certain resources to build, like, bolts for these kind of things. whoever has vision impairments, let me level with you. This game sucks ass at actively communicating that certain shit. There are certain things of like dodging wires and all that that would insta-kill you that I have had problems with, and I don't have horrible, like, vision. You know what I mean? Like, it's not you, alright? The game is built fuckity-doo-dah, fuckity-day. Like, certain times, like, I'm trying to even try and figure out where a certain thing is, and there's no way that I have seen that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, I don't need a fucking neon sign to be like, here's the tripwire, motherfucking idiot. No. But the ability to, like, actually get up on it and disarm it, I have set off traps more often attempting to disarm it than actually fucking going into the damn thing. And being like, ho-ho, sabada, didn't see ya, now I'm fucked. It's more like, I want to disarm you, and the thing won't let me. I have to beat on its nuts, and then it blows me up. Fuck me, yeah. Yeah. Because you need to disarm those to get more resources. Again, making you interact with a fucked up, inconsistent system that will potentially fuck you over more than actually give you what you need or let you not get injured. Let us see. And then it goes like super actiony on certain things. It's like you get your turret sequences, you get sequences where you're having shootouts, which wouldn't be a problem if you had the resources on the shootout portions, not the turret, because you have to just then manage the like thermals or whatnot. It's like, it's overheating. So it's like, okay, you're cutting this up pretty bad. What the fuck's going on here? So, going through this, I was like, wow. I was overly generous for this, and I just needed like a survival horror thing bad. And it's like, I wouldn't recommend it to survival horror people or people just to have like fun with a game, because trying to get resources, trying to get certain things, and just trying to like overall, I would go for any kind of easier option if you're like, I'm bored and I want something to play, you know? It surprised me of like, wow, this isn't good. Now granted, I could still play through it, and you're like doing your stuff to like hold more ammo with this green gel, or like upgrading your weapons, but the thing is, the shooting is not very consistent either. That happens more so in the second one, which I disabled auto aim in the second one, because I'm like, okay, I kind of like the challenge of aiming. That only works if like they know how to build an aiming system, because I swear to God, the fucking thing would go off of like heads easier than fucking like, hey, here's this reticle, woo, woo, there's butter on this motherfucker's forehead, woo, woo, you gonna shoot in the air. It's like, I don't want to do that, you fucking asshole, goddamn reticle shit. Again, there's a difference between like, I suck at aiming, and I have to fight the system to make sure I don't fucking waste resources. Now granted, on the second one, I had pretty much everything maxed out, all the weapons maxed out as well, so I was able to like chug along and be like, yeah. Which definitely changed up also how I interacted and did things within the game as well. So, the first game, I would definitely have been like, I wouldn't recommend this to people, because if you're looking for a story, it's not there. Like, I can't even say that the loosely connected shit that occurs constitutes a story. It's just, you have these plot objects with the loosest kind of like connective webbing possible, going through Michael Bay styled survival horror theme park as you hit certain kind of things. It's very weird, and if you're into the story and want to play just for the story, don't go for it, because all you really get cathartically is that Sebastian gets out of the stem thing, what you're thought of, and then smashes a brain. And you're told that Joseph's dead, and that Kidman's part of some shadowy organization. And it's like, what? So, okay. Let's see. That story, design, which it, like, I can't, like, it goes such a blur. Now, granted, I played through these pretty fast, but it's like, there wasn't really anything really truly memorable with it. Like, the first time, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm kind of alright with this, but then I could think of all different kinds of other games. And then I'm going through like this, I'm like, yeah, the sequence of events, I'm like, there's not really much else to kind of like pick out. Just that at one point the city's going to shit, and then you fight giant Ruvik dude with a fucking metal pipe through your ass, and then you're shooting fucking rockets at him, but you gotta make sure that you time him to hit his head and shit. It's just like, whatever. QTEs for the fucking win and shit going through that too. It's like, no. Not horror, not the worst kind of QTEs you could see, but fuck them. It's just weird. And then, like, playing through it is not the worst kind of experience I've had. I had worse kind of experiences with Deadly Premonition. However, that's only because there's enough polish and everything going on with this. And the thing is, I would say that this game should have been built better compared to, like, what Deadly Premonition was doing, because Deadly Premonition is an older game than it. Like, the thing is, I hate Deadly Premonition's gameplay of, like, actually going through with it, but I knew what I would get, and it was kind of consistent in that shittiness, if that makes sense. Like, I can, like, budget for it and understand it. This, it does weird things randomly, so that way when it fucks me at the most inopportune moment, and I'm like, how do I stop this from happening again? How do I avoid this? And when I can't really effectively figure that out, it's just, alright then, reload, or make sure that you don't waste a lot of resources and just say fuck it and hope that you can get, like, health from another thing. Ugh. And then you're going through and, like, the upgrades don't help you that, like, they're not completely and utterly game changers. It's not like I was going through like a fucking god being like, one shot revolver, boom. Like, if you're doing that kind of stuff, I think the reward should be that you are an OP motherfucker. However, since I don't really give that much of a shit about this story to replay this shit anymore, having completely an upgraded kit and everything only helps if you really want to replay something. And that did not happen with this, really. I'm like, no. However, that was more along the lines with this, with the Evil Within 2. Now, granted, this is like, they took all the criticism and they tried it to the best of their abilities. Interesting kind of thing is that, when talking about this and all that, with like Reaver, I do acknowledge that it does open world stuff in a way that I really like. I.e., it doesn't completely be just like checklist and you're like completely lost and it's like do all this kind of stuff as map cleanup and it doesn't really give you much. You're able to explore the zones at your own kind of pace and you do get rewarded for exploration and getting stuff. Like, you get better weapons, better gear, upgrading things like weapons or your abilities or your ammo capacity. It works very well in that it gives you the incentive of wanting to interact with the open world instead of just be like, yeah, we just put some random bullshit that's just like the barest bones, so go fucking do it. Oh, so there's like 3 samey fetch quests over there. There's a fucking tower you can climb over there to see the other part of the map. There's a fucking stronghold thing that you can, like, kill some bad guys over and over again. It's like, oh, so I'm doing the game design, well, for you? And that I'm just picking what I want to do? I don't know. This, it's more like, hey, okay, we're understanding what's going on here. So, whereas in the first one, you had, like, the barest understanding of what the fuck was going on story-wise. Here, it is a more simple, straightforward kind of story, which kind of helps it and hurts it as well. We learned that Seb had lost his daughter, and that led to his alcoholism and everything like that, and trying to figure out what's going on with it. And that led to also the disillusion of his marriage, because she thought that a shadowy organization had kidnapped her, and that she wasn't really dead. And she's like, I'm I'm gonna go and find this shit. And we come in, Seb's pretty much drinking, and Kidman pops up and be like, hey, yeah, we kind of need to bring you in. Who's we? Mobius, the shadowy organization that is fucking stupid as shit. Like, for deep state conspiracy thing of like uber powerful organization, this organization fucking sucks, and we don't even really know what their goals are. It's just that they've controlled the world and they're doing shit with STEM because they say like, oh, no more war, disparity, and all this kind of bullshit as we go through it. It's like, yeah, that's not really going, yeah, that doesn't fit. You'd probably be able to already do all this if you control the stuff that you do. And it's like, they're really uber powerful, and if they could do, like, if they were that, then why the fuck do they need Seb and everything? Like, they could just handle all this situational stuff on their own. It's the weird kind of, like, shit that's going on. So, they bring in Seb because his daughter's alive, and they're using her as the core for this kind of STEM thing. Kind of similar to Ruben. However, you're like, she's got special powers that we are not privy to or shown, and they used her to like build this town of Union. Kids have active imaginations. Them trying to build or keep any kind of consistent kind of thing would be like the worst kind of possible idea ever. Like, using any one person to kind of like control that would be nuts. But she's like, hey, this child will do it. It's like, yeah, but how the fuck did you get her to make, like, an adult town that's, like, suburban America kind of shit? Like, it's never explained how they were able to make this town to begin with. It's like, she could make, like, anything she wanted. Candy, rainbows, unicorns, fucking centaurs that thunder shit like gold. Like, how do they stop that? Granted, evidently that's not important enough to the plot. However, they're trying to use this to, like, control everybody and put them all into a hive mind. And it's like, okay, but who fucking controls that hive mind? And that's the problem that goes with it. It's like, oh, all these people are trying to, like, control it and do all this stupid kind of shit. It's like, alrighty then. But they're like, alright, go in, save her, all that kind of stuff. And then we kind of like go through the kind of weird story structure that kind of happens, where a Mobius team was sent in, and you're trying to figure out what's kind of going on. The first third of the game is dealing with the Stefano kind of psycho murderer dude, and I think that he would have probably been the best kind of but the best kind of antagonist to kind of actually flesh out and just go further on. Because he's got some limited control because he's pretty much taken the core and everything's going kind of nutty. He's killing Mobius team members. We then get introduced to, like, O'Neill, Hoffman, Torres, who's working with Kidman, and Kidman's, like, not really happy with Mobius and is trying to get Lily, Seb's daughter, out. She actually planned this with Myra, Seb's ex-wife / wife. But then we also learn later on that this dude Theodore who was involved. It's like, alright. So, do we want to go story-wise or also interject into, like, the gameplay design? Because it follows a similar kind of gameplay design as the first one. However, it's kind of at least a little bit more refined and more polished. I was able to pretty much upgrade everything that I needed to on my first playthrough, going through doing main story missions and side missions. The side missions really helped out to, like, see other kind of stuff. You could get Seb's, like, revolver doing this anima kind of thing, which I didn't do on my second playthrough kind of thing because you then get this fucking thing that, like, pops up. You're like, you have to run because it'll kill you kind of shit. And you're like, fuck that, I don't need to deal with that. You also still have the stealth mechanics involved, which are a little bit better, except for, like, parts where it's like, hey, that person just completely and utterly always kind of finds me, so I can't stealth kill him, so just fuck you, that's why. However, resources aren't as shittily scarce because they have introduced a crafting system, so that way it's like, oh, I only found a certain amount of bullets, but I found a lot of fucking gunpowder, so I'm going to make, like, bullets for my pistol, shotgun, sniper, magnum, assault rifle, that kind of thing. So it gives the player agency in doing that. So that is a big win, okay? I always like being able to have that kind of option because you only had the crafting ability for the harpoons and shit on the crossbow in the first one. Here, you do harpoons, you do health, you do all this stuff. It's like, wow, okay, so you introduced all these resource systems so that you can actively put it in the player's control. So that way, if you don't want to make them and make your runs harder, that is your prerogative. That is player choice. Now, granted, because I could see that people are being like, it's too easy to get resources and shit like that. That's if you choose to actively go and min-max your resources and shit. Now, granted, there is still RNG and, like, certain kind of stuff, so, like, you get, like, of course, herbs, gunpowder, all that kind of stuff, if you got the correct resources. However, if you're able to make it so that way you got a fuck ton of bullets and a fuck ton of resources and make sure you don't get completely and utterly fucked over, you do the work to get it, and that is your reward. So I think that's a pretty good enough balance of, like, it's in the player's decision of, hey, I'm going to make this harder for myself versus the game is going to make it harder for you. So that I definitely want to at least give it an acknowledgement on there. Okay. Let's see here. So you're kind of going through, you're seeing what's kind of going on. You're unlocking lockers and stuff like you do in the first game with this Tatiana kind of nurse one. She's pushed more into the background with just upgrades, sometimes talking to you. So they don't really dive out on her lore very much. I do like that the story is more kind of involved where it's actively showcased and more of the things that you find, like the lore, actively like gives you more kind of context and value add more than just, hey, I need this to understand what the fuck's going on. Now, does that mean it kind of gets more simplistic and like it has to tell you what's kind of going on? Yeah, so that is a one that I will knock it for, because there does get to certain kind of points where it's like, hey, we have to give you this kind of info dump stuff to make sure you understand what's going on. And I'm like, I wish you didn't do that, but from what you've done, all right. So we're introduced, we're going through and all this and getting our resources, getting our weapons and everything, and we're dealing with Stefano, just keeping our daughter. And then we get the whole kind of confrontation with him, and his boss battle, shit. It's not the worst, but whenever you have teleporting douche holes, it always gets fucking stupid because they keep teleporting away from you, and you're like, how do I burst damage you, you motherfucker? Destiny, captains, always teleporting away from you, you goddamn assholes. That's the Taken Captains. But, like, he's like, ha ha ha, and then you got his fucking tentacle ass, camera ass dude being like, eat me, motherfucker, don't smack my ass. Fuck you. But then you take him out, it's like, shouldn't that have been the boss? And then it's like, hey, guess what? Now we're into the part 2 of 3 here. It's like, why is this here? And then we go into the medieval kind of stuff, and we're introduced to enemies that kind of fuck you over a little bit more, called these disciples, which can randomly turn on fire to pretty much give you stranger, weirder difficulty on trying to fucking stealth kill them. It's just like, alright. Now, granted, it wasn't that much of an issue for me on my second playthrough because, of course, I got more resources, I got stronger weapons, and I could just say, eat my ass with a blade of grass, Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays. It's like, it changed up how I kind of, like, went through the game, because I'm like, alright, how am I going to deal with this? Because in the first one, I'm like, I have to make sure I don't fuck over my resources. I'm like, I got to do that too. But if I could just run past this motherfucker or blast that motherfucker, I'll be alright. So, you're going through, and it's like this Father Theodore kind of dude. It's like, I can help you with your trauma if you just give me the core. It's like, okay. Like, I understand, like, the distrust of, like, the religious kind of stuff that he's kind of doing and all that kind of thing. But it's just, like, not enough given. Like, I would have rather had Stefano be the main antagonist through the main game and have more kind of stuff going on, because he's like doing all this shit for art. He's like killing all these people for his art. And he's like, wow. I'm like, fuck you, man. And utilizing the core's powers, which is never explained how any of these people are able to fucking do, but fucking reasons. Which actually doesn't make sense, because when we get later on in the game and we tell Theodore to eat shit and he gets killed by Myra, Myra has technically already replaced Lily as the core. which means that Stefano wouldn't have been able to do anything that he was doing. And I don't even know how Theodore would have been able to do anything that he was doing because Lily was with Myra after you kill Stefano. Fuck. And these are the holes in our stories. So, yeah, it's a big one. I just kind of like got onto that. Huh. And the thing is, if she's the core, wouldn't she need to be like completely devoted to the upholding of the whole STEM environment? So her being able to like walk around and do stuff would take resources away from that, so it'd be really hard for that to happen. Just keeps breaking. Yep. I definitely understand why they kind of were like, I don't even know how this kind of shit works. So Kidman's also kind of like giving information. We learned that Joseph's alive for some fucking reason, but he's like a non-character. So it's like, I'm glad he's not dead, but he was pretty much cardboard to begin with, so whatever. Well, we go through pretty much this medievally kind of shit with Theodore, and then get introduced to Torres, and we have to fight O'Neill because he gets pretty much suckered into Theodore's kind of shit. And evidently, he was part of the plan to like get Lily out, but then he's like, I want to control everything with Mobius. And it's like, alright, I get that, but I need more than just you're already at that point be like, evil. It's like, okay. Myra makes more sense. Now, granted, out of the three kind of villainous kind of people that we get, Stefano should have been like given more kind of thing, like character development, or Myra. Like, Myra's is like her overprotectiveness to protect Lily because she was taken, incidentally enough, by Torres. The one trying to help you get her out as she dies. Shit. I actually like the supporting cast of characters because they give at least enough kind of flavor, even though they're not dived into too much. And she's trying to protect Lily at all costs, pretty much even just making an environment where she would be safe in the STEM and keeping her with her. And that overprotectiveness makes sense. If that would have been a more effective thing of Seb versus her throughout the whole game. Not that she is trying to be an evil or bad person, but that her overprotectiveness and her trauma of losing her daughter and then finally getting her and trying to protect her from a shitty, shadowy organization makes her pick the wrong things to do, and Seb has to fucking kind of like deal with that and try and get her to kind of stop that. And you kind of get shades of that at the end as everything's going to shit. She, for some reason, has the power of like white jism shit. Like, it's white goop. White goopy shit. Like, I'm thinking, there's got to be somebody that'd be like, dude, this is just gonna look like fucking jizz everywhere. Like, fucking, like, seriously. Nobody's like, why? Like, there could have been so many other ways. It's like, nah, just use white goopy shit. Okay, this isn't gonna be a problem. And it's pretty much towards the end. It's really kind of stupid because you get introduced to the Lost and you get your kind of thing. Then you get the flamey fuckers that you gotta deal with, and like, no. That was a Rubik clone in the first one that I had fucking stupid shit with. Yeah. No. Yeah. But then you're introduced to these, like, the white goopy ones, and they're only there for a little bit, and then you fight this other thing, and then you fight her, and then it's kind of like over for the game. There's like 17 chapters, but they're like, you get more kind of front loaded with the Stefano in the first one, and then it's kind of at least a little condensed with Theodore, and then it's the most kind of condensed with Myra, and you're just like, alright, I get trying to like present different kind of characters with enemy types, but this didn't really work for it. Oh, and you also fight the bosses from the first game with a thing for Theodore, which I like the idea of, but don't like the execution of, if that makes sense. So Seb then has to fight this last boss battle, which is against Myra, and it's this giant goopy monster that you have to just shoot fucking weak spots on. And it's really fucking nutty because, again, with the game design, now granted, you don't have as many kind of like tripwires and shit that you have to fucking deal with that are like invisible, but there are some that would fuck you over if you're not careful. The shooting got really fucking nutty with me on this one. Sometimes I'd be like, that should have hit, but then again, I turned off the aim assist, which I did it the first playthrough, I'm pretty sure, and I did it the second playthrough, and I'm like, what the fuck, you're fighting me, what the hell? So it was annoying mainly for me, but it didn't stop me from like beating it or whatnot. So he does that with Myra, and she apologizes. She's kind of knocked back to her senses. He gets to Lily. She thought he was dead, but they're together. They get pulled out. Kidman tells the head Mobius dude to get fucked, and that she does this whole kind of shootout thing, which shows her kind of more secret agent style, which the way it kind of ends, I wouldn't have minded a kind of secret agent kind of spin-off where Kidman is just kind of going up against this shadowy organization if it was more kind of better defined. So I'm like, because they put it and she's like, she was drawn into this organization but hates what they were kind of doing and decides to destroy it from within. And then at least this one portion to get Lily and Seb out. So she's fighting down there, pretty much gets Seb and Lily out, which is cool. And he's like threatening to kill her, but she took out her chip, and then Myra uses her stuff to pretty much use the chip to kill all the Mobius people, which is really fucking stupid and a pretty big design flaw for them to have. And just also kind of shows, you see that Seb is in this weird fucking tub thing with this milky kind of shit, fully clothed with nothing connected to him, and I'm like, how the fuck is he even in the kind of STEM thing to begin with? If you were with Mobius, you probably had your fucking Wi-Fi chip that would jack you in. This, he doesn't even have that, so it's like, alright, whatever, fucking space magic shit. They get her out, Kidman kind of sends them on their way, and then it ends with like a tease of like the STEM thing booting up. But I liked the second one better than the first one, but it still has so many problems story-wise and character-wise, though it still makes improvements. Gameplay works kind of better, but it's like, oh god, there's so many holes and shit that start popping up. It's like, alright. Because they pretty much, like, granted, even though I said it would be cool to have a spin-off with Kidman taking out Mobius, it's like Myra was able to already do that, and I'm like, nobody thought, what if the core went rogue and decided, hey, fuck all y'all? If I had the possibility that my brain would get toasted by some motherfucker just for the shits, giggles, and lulz, I wouldn't put that shit in my head. No, sirree, Bob. No. Yeah. So, with how the second one ended, I'm not surprised that we haven't gotten a third one. Like, I don't even know where to go. It did get kind of more on the action-y route, like going from, like, Dead Space 1 to Dead Space 2, like from Alien to Aliens. However, it's not to the extreme of, like, I got a machine gun and I'm Doom Guy taking out demons like a motherfucker. I usually like that kind of action-y kind of thing because it usually gets into a refinement of certain gameplay things if it's executed right. Otherwise, if it's executed wrong, it just turns into an action gameplay kind of thing. It's like, there's no survival horror, I'm not afraid. Fuck you, man, I'm gonna get this shit done. So, thoughts. This series now confuses me and confounds me because I didn't think it was like that bad, and I was always kind of looking forward to it, but going through on these playthroughs, this game should not have been able to lead to this game at all. And if the sales kind of like stumped this to not getting a third one, I get it. Like, they didn't know what to do with the story, especially the first one. They probably don't know where to go for it, and they just usually want to do certain kind of horror tropes and not actually make a good game that utilizes those certain horror tropes in good kind of ways. Because just because it's a trope doesn't mean it's bad. Like, you can do a good thing with a trope if you try and do it in your own kind of way and execute it well. But just to do it, it's like safe head dude. Like, I don't even know why he's got a safe on his head. I don't even know what it fucking represents. There's just like barbed wire and shit. He just goes around and smacks you with a fucking meat sack or whatnot. Chainsaw dude, he's got a chainsaw. I'm like, okay. Thing is, I'm kind of scared of it, but like, I've dealt with this shit in like Resident Evil and other kind of stuff. Yeah. Crazy arm lady. Okay, how do I fight this fucking thing? Fire? Alright, cool. You get a flamethrower and like the second one to kind of deal with it. So yeah, this definitely had potential, and they could have done some really kind of cool stuff with this series. However, they're never really gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, they really got that potential and they were able to execute it and communicate that effectively. I still had more fun with like the second one, and I still am glad that I played them. But I'm like, whoo, shit. This does some fucked up crazy shit that is not good. And really hampers enjoyment, at least for me, and even like with people I've talked about with, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could definitely understand why this is fucked for you and does some fucked up shit and you're not having a good time with this. So, would I recommend this series? Not really. Like, there's better survival horror games out there. There's better ones that have stories and characters that are worth your time and won't offer you the kind of frustrations. However, I wouldn't say that I would avoid them at all costs, because I have played other games that I've been like, I actively hate this, even though I beat this. Fuck this game, I'm never coming back to it. Or just, you could not actively fucking beat it because of bugs and technical shit. Watchdog Legions had a fucking save thing that fucked me over, and I'm like, I ain't dealing that shit. Nope. Fuck it. So, those are my opinions on the video game series. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.